Hello everyone, this is the 100th anniversary of the Rotary International Club here in Scottsbluff and Gering. And we're taking a little bit of an in-depth look during this month leading up to the official 100th anniversary coming up March 24th. And I happen to have Rotary Foundation Chair Zach Karpf with me today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Scott.
Let's talk a little bit about the foundation because there is a little bit of difference between the club itself and the foundation. Explain what the foundation is, how it started, and what it does.
You bet. So the Rotary Foundation has actually been around for a little more than 100 years. It celebrated its 100th anniversary in 2017. Oh. So it started in 1917 by Rotary International President Arch Klumpf, and he proposed that an endowment be started that would basically have the mission of doing good in the world. And so at that time, the contribution amounts were smaller. So it took about 10 years until it got to a significant amount, which in those times would have been about $5,000, and they renamed it and officially started calling it the Rotary Foundation and actually separated it out from Rotary International, so it became its own entity that had its own management that worked with it. So really the mission of the Rotary Foundation is to enable Rotarians to advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through the improvement of health, the support of education, and the alleviation of poverty. So the Rotary Foundation really helps fund all of the club and the international Rotary International's humanitarian activities. That can be local service projects, and it can be also global initiatives. So our club or our district can apply for grants from the foundation to invest in projects here locally or regionally, and provide scholarships for those. But the foundation also leads the charge on any worldwide Rotary campaigns, biggest one of which is eradicating polio, which we've been working on for many years, actually since the 80s, and also promoting peace. And so Rotarians such as myself and friends of Rotary, like you, Scott, support the foundation's work through voluntary contributions. Okay, and so you have the voluntary contributions. Are there any other funding mechanisms that help the foundation, disperse these funds to the local groups or the international efforts? Absolutely. And so, for example, I might talk just a little bit about our efforts around polio. And the reason I would mention that is because the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has given hundreds of millions of dollars towards the polio eradication initiative over the last 10 years. And so in addition to individual contributions, we do have some large foundations that contribute to that. And the Rotary Foundation has an application process. They have committees that are looking at applications to make sure that those applications, kind of follow the mission. We had a project actually that our club supported in Kenya related to a water project, which here might seem kind of basic, but just some basic sanitation and hygiene that the individuals there didn't have access to, especially in school environments. And so we had a gentleman from our club, Joe Schoen, that put a lot of work into that project. So that's an example of a project that our club contributed to, that our district contributed to, and then also the Rotary Foundation International contributed to. And so all those different funding sources ended up helping that project. And
of course, as Zach mentions, there are local efforts that the foundation does get involved in as well. And we'll be right back in just a moment to tell you about that. And we're back, and my guest today is Zach Karpf, who is the chair of the Foundation Committee for the local Rotary International of Scottsbluff and Gering. Again, thank you very much for joining us.
You bet.
There are local efforts that the Foundation gets involved in over and above the international and national efforts. Kind of explain a little bit how that works and what has happened here locally involving the Foundation.
Sure. So we've had some local projects related to the Rotary Foundation. We've had some regional projects, and probably there's a regional project that I'm thinking of in Casper that I think would be a good example of that. They had a community gathering area that didn't really have a central focal point, if you will, for the community to be a part of, and so a club there raised funds for basically a clock tower that's really become a central point of focus for this rather large community gathering area. And it was something that the city wasn't going to do, the state wasn't going to do, the county wasn't going to do, and that Rotary Club identified that as a project, applied for district matching funds, brought those back in, brought Rotary Foundation funds in, and so it's an example of how those dollars can kind of circulate. And I mentioned a little bit about that Kenya Water Project, which our club contributed actually quite a bit to, but also our district, which is just this region here, Wyoming and Nebraska, basically, contributed quite a bit to as well. But it wouldn't have been possible without the Rotary Foundation, without that pooling of resources that comes together.
How does the foundation and the club in general decide on projects such as that to get involved in?
Right. So we do have individuals in the clubs that are passionate about certain projects, and so as you know, every project just needs a champion to get behind it. And so usually it comes from individuals coming to our Rotary Club, coming to our Rotary Club board and saying, this is an important project that we should get behind and work on the application process, try to support that project.
Okay, and if somebody is interested in, obviously getting involved in Rotary is one thing, but if they want to make a contribution to and through the foundation, how do they do so?
Sure, so going to www.rotary.org would be the first step, and there's a lot of information on there. And in fact, one thing I wanted to share, Scott, was that cumulatively over the life of the Rotary Foundation, over $5 billion has been contributed to the foundation. About half of that has gone to support a variety of different annual programs in support of the mission, and over $1.5 billion has gone to our polio eradication efforts, which is a huge effort. It's spanned the globe for almost 40 years. We're this close to basically eradicating polio from the face of the earth. Many of us know people that were impacted by polio, even here locally, and in other countries it's a lot. It's still an issue, and so it's something that we want to work on. So going to Rotary.org is a great way to do that and contribute to a very worthy cause. And
a very worthy cause, it definitely is, and it's just part of the whole process and involvement of Rotary International here in Scottsbluff and Gering. And of course, we're moving right close to celebrating 100 years of the local Rotary International of Scottsbluff and Gering. Zach, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for having me.